Hello, it's Daryl at 10 Foot Truck, Good Attitudes Services. And I'm on a DoorDash run. Well, it's scheduled up now, but I got another schedule later. And I don't know, I was thinking today about the fuel situation and the cars, because I thought back, like, when I was a kid, I remember how cars went from like the 1970s, these huge big old boats. And by the 80s, they were shrunken down, and cars started getting really small, and they kind of stayed like these compact cars for many years until, oh God, about maybe the late 90s. I don't know when. Yeah, I think probably the late 90s when the big trucks started coming back, when people started buying the bigger pickup trucks. I think it was around the late 90s, maybe mid to late 90s. But up until that time, everybody had the small mini trucks or the medium-sized, little medium-sized trucks. Like I had a couple of those medium Ford Ranger trucks, and I also had a medium Dodge, like they're like mid-sized trucks. I've seen a couple of those coming back, but for a long time you could only get the big monster trucks. So, but I thought about the first car I bought in the 80s. When I bought my first car, it was a Ford Torino, the ones like you see in Starsky and Hutch, the big red Ford Torino. I bought one of those. It had the 351 Cleveland, the big V8. But it was mid 70s, 1976. But compared to all the other cars that were new, that thing was just a monster. I mean, it was like, and I think it wasn't that old. It was only like 10 years old at the time when I bought it. But it looked so different from the newer cars, because the way cars were designed just completely changed, and it all had to do with the fuel cost. I think it had something to do with the 70s gas wars and the prices, and people wanted to have more economic cars, and the Japanese were bringing in more economic cars, and it lasted longer, like Toyotas, the Celicas, and you'd see people buying those Celicas and Toyota Corollas and that kind of thing. And then of course Datsun had the little 510s; those are popular, and the little Datsun station wagons. I had one of those because they were fuel efficient. They were like, they started going to the four cylinder type cars, getting away from the V8s. And even the trucks, I remember in high school, the big thing was mini trucks. You don't see those at all anymore. They could lower the mini. They're like mini trucks that were lowered. The little like Ford. The first one I saw was like a Ford. I think my cousin had one. Ford Chevy Love. You don't see those anymore, but they're like these little trucks. And then another friend of mine had a little Volkswagen pickup truck. I can't remember the name of the type of truck, like the brand, but it was a Volkswagen. And it was a mini truck. It was really small. And then they had the Subaru Bratz in the late 70s, and I don't know, in the early 80s. And I ended up buying one years later. It was like a 1983 Subaru Brat. And they were just a little mini truck, smaller, like smallest little truck you can get. But they were 4-wheel drive, so they're real fun cars to have. And there was like the the Volkswagen Golf and all these little small cars. And it all, I think, had a response. I think this is my theory, it was a response, and I think that's the way it was. It was a response to the higher gas fuel prices that were happening in the 70s. And, of course, fuel prices are nothing like they are now. So I was thinking, when I'm driving around doing DoorDash, I'm thinking, God, there's so many huge trucks, with the V8s, and the big SUVs, and everyone's got a big car now. I mean, because since the late 90s, all the way through the 2000s, the big car and the big SUV and the big trucks became the norm. Now all you see mostly is like SUVs and big trucks. And the big trucks, I mean, I have a big truck, and they get terrible gas mileage. I get like 12 miles per gallon. So the only time I ever use my truck is when I'm hauling things for money, hauling to make money. I don't take it out to drive it around town. I take the SUV, which gets about 20, 25 per gallon, but it's not good enough. Not like my old car, which my little Kia used to get almost 30 miles per gallon. So I'm thinking maybe, in response to this whole gas crisis, I wonder if car companies are going to start releasing the smaller trucks, maybe mini trucks or medium-sized trucks. Are they going to start releasing smaller cars, smaller sedans? Are we going to start seeing the smaller car come back that kind of disappeared over the last at least 10 years that I could think of. And then I'm seeing a lot of these big trucks being sold, like people are selling them because they're like, well, why am I going to drive around, commute in this car, in this truck? It gets 12 miles per gallon, and it's like, for diesel, it's like $5 a gallon here. And who knows when it's going to come down? Is it going to keep going up? Because you can't predict the future. So I think there's going to be a response to that, the way cars, of course, the electric car is kind of a response to that, but we really don't have the infrastructure or the amount of charging stations for that to happen, I don't think. I mean, look at all the gas stations we have, and they're still packed. I don't see hardly any. I see a few, charging stations in apartment complexes at Walmart, and I saw a new Tesla. There's a Tesla lot I saw where they have they're building. I guess it's going to be new, where they have charging stations there. Other than that, I mean, it's not even comparable to the amount of gas stations they have. Like, if everyone had an electric car, all of a sudden there'd be no way to charge them. It's not possible. So that's going to be something. We already have the infrastructure for the gas car. So my theory would be, if we already have the infrastructure for the gas car, how about just making them in response to the gas? I mean, they're already more fuel efficient, but just making them smaller. The 4-cylinder, people would be, I'm sure, would be willing to buy, to save on gas, to buy a smaller car. But if you go to a car lot, where's the last new small cars? I haven't seen any, but then again, I haven't been to a car lot in a long time. But anytime I drive by a car lot, it's usually these big, massive trucks, or like these big SUVs, I mean, the massive trucks at this point in time, unless you're making money with that truck, like you have a construction company where you're towing a big, one of those big utility trailers, or if you're hauling stuff, what's the point? I mean, you're just wasting gas. So I don't see any point in buying one of those unless you're going to use it for business, because then you can write it off as an asset for business. If you're construction, or you're concrete, or you have to haul around a bunch of tools. Now, in my opinion, if you're construction and you're a plumber or electrician or something like that, I see no point in a pickup truck and hauling a utility trailer. I would invest in a cargo van, and I mean one of those tall Sprinter vans. I've talked to construction people who have those, and they're really happy with those. They last a long time. They're much more efficient, and you can build shelves in them, and you can haul stuff on top. You can build racks on top. You have way more cargo space. You have probably I think one of those Sprinter vans, you probably have 14 to 15 cubic yards space in the back. Where a pickup truck, you have to tie things down, or you don't have much cubic space in the pickup trucks, especially the new ones. They're just a little 6-foot beds. And or you have to tow around, like I see people towing around these the big cargo trailers. Those are cool, but that just gives this gas mileage just goes down. So I mean, that's my opinion. I would buy a cargo van if I was doing, if I was in construction. I mean, I have a box truck, small box truck, which gets about the same as a pickup truck, 12 miles per gallon, but that's just for hauling large items, and I like the enclosed space on those, and it makes it easier. And if I have something that's valuable in the back, I can lock it up and no one can see what it is. Whereas in the back of a pickup truck, you have something valuable in the back and you pull into a parking lot, it's kind of risky. So and the weather too, you'd have to tarp it up. So I wonder with our average, not the business people, the people who are using trucks, they're going to continue to buy those. But what about the average person who drives around in these things just for show? I got a big truck just because it looks cool. Or an SUV, do I really need all that space? I really don't need an SUV doing food delivery, but it is handy to have for when I'm doing, I did a tire delivery yesterday, and I make more money on the tire deliveries per mile for the most part. And so I can stick on the back here. If I do a Home Depot delivery, I have room in the back. But I'm thinking about getting a micro van and instead, because they get about the same gas mileage and it's a little easier to load. So I use it for business, so that's why I have this. But if I was just doing food delivery, I would definitely rather have a smaller car. It has better gas mileage. I'm not really interested in the electric car because, to me, the electric car is going to be, until they get all these charging stations, it's really inconvenient. I mean, you got to go you got to charge it all night, or you got to build one, you got to hook one up your house or whatever. Like my brother has one, but he has a special charging station that he hooked up in his house. I don't know how that works, but he had to have a different kind of electrical outlet. And then he doesn't really go that far. He just sticks around close by to where he's at. But so I don't know. We'll see. We'll see if how long this gas crisis is going to go on, and we'll see what happens in the next, like, the 2023 cars. Are they going to start to, besides the electric cars, are they going to start to bring in probably hybrid cars like the Prius, and the smaller cars like that may become more and more popular, to save gas. And of course, if you have a lot of money, I guess you keep driving your big truck. Doesn't matter. But if you're just a regular person, I'm sure you're going to want to get something smaller. That's kind of what I was thinking today. That's just what I want to talk about. Is we'll see how the shift in cars goes, and types of cars people buy in the future. And yeah, that's kind of where it's at. That's about all I have to say. I'm gonna go back on a food delivery, and then I signed up for I do have a job for my truck on Saturday, which I'm happy about. So I need to get that out there, going and removing a mattress for load up. So that'll be cool. Maybe I'll do a video on that. I always like those because they're much more efficient for pay, because you get less miles, less time, better pay. That's why I like those. I want to do more and more of those, and less of the food. Although foods, I'm always going to do that, but I do want to leverage my time. Anyway, enough of that. That's just something I was thinking about. Thought I'd put it on the video. 10-foot truck, good attitude services. Have a great day.